All right. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another book talk with Cindy here at Eight Letters Bookstore and Publishing. Well, as the title states, I'm your book curator, Cindy Wong, and this is your weekly dose of literary news here in the Philippines. And this time around, we're going to talk about two books. For this length alone, we're going to talk to Carlou Barroca Espedillion, the author of the newly launched collection entitled Life Cycle of a Butterfly. But before we get him on stage, I would like to read a little bit of his bio so that we get to have an idea on what we have or what he have in store for us. So, firstly, Carlo Barroca Espedillion is the current chairperson of the Sarangani Writers League. So, yes, that's right. You've heard that right. He's hailing all the way from Mindanao. He's the said organization's representative in the Provincial Local Youth Development Council of Sarangani and also a member of Soxargen Writers Collective. So he has published quite a few books in the past. So the first one was called Takoyaki Boys and Other Stories by Rebel Press. So that was in the year 2022. And there are also zines. There's one called Amputation, Decomposition, Tales of Eventual Decay. So this was featured in SOX Zine Festival 2022. So all right, this time around we're going to talk about a collection of short stories. The When I first saw the cover, I would say it's very intriguing already. And then you read the title and it's Life Cycle of a Butterfly, and you flip the book, and then okay, well, I've got to read this book. Okay, so without further ado, may we call on Carlou. Hi, Carlou.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Maraming salamat po for inviting me for this afternoon's interview.
Yes, I believe it was quite last minute, and I would say napaka-professional mo because you're able to, well, you're here, you're here with us. Um, Kanina nakita ko kanina no, na, you're showing copies of your books. Do you have them there with you?
oh, yes, I have my books with me.
Mm-hmm.
Very
There.
surprising because in the span of a year, I already have
Wow.
three published works. Ito po.
Wow, ang dami. Ayan, yan yung Takoyaki Boys. And ayun yung
Uh,
zine. And there's
and this is the
also,
latest one.
mm-mm, ayun, na ngayon, actually it's available at the Cebu Lit Fest sa Ayala in Cebu. Um, Kakarating lang niya like a few days ago, and then, nasa Cebu Lit Fest na siya ngayon. So congratulations for this book. Carlu, can you tell us, like, what is this collection of stories all about? I mean, the title itself, anong connection niya sa butterfly?
That's the hard thing with the short story genre, because it is an assortment of stories, but
Mm-mm.
generally I am very intrigued with the story of cycles, and I believe na as special as our lives are, it has the tendency to enter a cycle. It always happens to people, to events, and although we say that we learn from our history, statistically, there's always this tendency to have a repetition. But and now sa new book on the life cycle of a butterfly, I'm trying to capture the beauty of that repetition in a way na I'm very influenced by readings on Buddhist philosophy and the concept of reincarnation, and ayun, so I try to integrate it in my book, and the store and the result is the life cycle of a butterfly.
Mhm. Wow, that's very interesting. Although sa totoo lang na, I mean, it's a subject na has been talked about, pero like it's hindi masyadong nailalagay siya in a collection of works like this. So I would say it's very unique. Um like kanina na mention mo yung about yung Buddhist philosophy, history repeating itself, the cycle, karma, or yeah, things as such. But why did you choose to write about this with so many subjects na pwedeng pagpilian?
Actually, I am a bookworm mostly, but
Mm,
most of my stories were influenced by film and cinema in general. So I was heavily inspired by this movie by Gaspar Noé entitled Enter the Void, and
mm,
tackles about very dark subject matter siya, and at the end parang na-reincarnate siya. And ayun
mm,
yung naging main inspirational life cycle of Butterfly. And nakausap ko recently yung aking friend na publisher na si
mm,
Sir MJ Tumamak from Maclet Alamid.
mm. Oh yes.
And
Hi
he
MJ.
noticed na nakalagay sa forward ng book actually na I
Mm,
have this
mm, mm,
tendency to write stories in segments.
mm,
And I
mm,
think oh, habit ko siya as a writer, but eventually I turned it into my signature style in my writing na timing na pumasok siya sa tema ng cycles, and I
mm,
think
mm.
that's what made this book ano ito yung reason kung bakit na produce yung life cycle of a butterfly.
Okay, so a lot of inspiration um, from the past and naisip mo na, oh wow, this is, parang ito na yung nagiging cycle ng pagsusulat ko. Okay, okay, that's interesting. Yun nga, kasi we do have like a lot of authors launching their collection of stories and um, sometimes they would choose to write about their lives, personal essays, like for example yung like si Jerome de la Peña, yung bangkay sa jeep, like usually the experiences that he had in the past. So this time around meron din kami mga fiction in the past. So um pagdating naman dito sa life cycle of a butterfly, like what do you want your readers to feel?
Well, that's the wonderful
Dark?
thing about that is the wonderful thing about fiction. Pwede mong i-disguise ang reality as an imaginative story. So, ano yung mga kwento na makikita natin sa life cycle of a butterfly?
Mm-mm.
Mostly, I will say na nangyari itong mga iba-ibang bagay na ito base sa mga nakita ko sa paligid,
Mm-mm.
base sa mga nabasa ko sa balita and nakita ko sa
Mm-mm.
social media. It is biographical in nature. Even those stories na
Mm-mm.
nakasulat dito na very fantasy or sci-fi siya, meron siyang shreds of reality. And I think that is the wonderful, that's the key philosophy of fiction. It is an alternative history. It is a way of telling the truth just in a different lens. And yun siguro, Ma'am Cindy, if it
Oo.
makes sense at all.
Yes, yes, it makes sense. Bago tayo tumuloy sa susunod na question, ay gusto ko naman munang ipakita, like, closely, yung, yung book sa aming website. So, this is Life Cycle of a Butterfly. It's only 340 pesos. Available na rin siya sa Shopee and sa Lazada. So, ayan, Life Cycle of a Butterfly by Carlou Barroca Espedillion. If you haven't got your copy yet, you can please go to our site right now. So, that's 8lettersbooks.com/shop. Okay, so get it now. Now, now. Okay, we have very limited copies. Okay, so, okay, moving forward, ang gusto ko namang, ang sunod naman na question for you, Carlo, is, uh, like, how was your process in writing all of these stories? Do you write it? Did you write it in one go, or like, are you the type of writer na, okay, I'm going to, like, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to write, or yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not a very organized. I'm not a very organized writer. So, ganito kasi
Mm,
yan. When I see an idea, I immediately think on how I can tell it in my own way. So,
mhm.
for example, I see a certain scenario. I'm going to expand on that. I'm going to dwell
Mhm.
on the stories that are not told na nandun sa kwento na yun. For example, uh, I was reading this article about the red light districts of Manila, and
Mm-hmm.
at the same time I came across the stories of the sex workers at the time
Mm-hmm.
in when I was reading it. So what if I combine those two, and therefore I was able to conceptualize my own story.
Mm-hmm.
Tapos
Okay.
I have two ways of writing a story kasi minsan yung parang
Mm-hmm.
single story lang siya. Tapos at the same time, I have also this style of writing which involves para siyang segment siya as stated by Sir MJ. Para siyang shake, rattle,
Mm-hmm.
and roll siya na format.
Mm-hmm.
There are, in the single short story, there's three mini stories, but they are connected by an overarching theme. So I think that's one of my distinctive ways of writing.
Mm, okay, nice. So, perhaps you can read an excerpt for us. Mary, susunod pa ka mga questions, but I want the viewers right now to have the guess na ano ba, anong classroom style ba ng pagsusulat dito, yung nasa book. Ayan, para magkaroon sila ng idea.
Ang babasahin ko na story is an excerpt. It is one of
Mm-hmm.
my shorter stories. The title is An Infant Was Born into This World.
Mm-hmm.
So here it goes. So an infant was born into this world. The first thing he saw was a sliver of light. Confused, the infant tried to open his eyes, but the pain was too much to bear, and so the infant moved his head a little bit. The infant felt that his body was covered in a slimy substance. How did he manage to be in that place? He tried to remember, but the images were slipping away like a cinder disintegrating into ashes. His mind flashed back to a hospital room. He was surrounded by a group of strangers, smiling and sobbing at his presence. "We will miss you," said a woman's voice. The infant can barely see the source of the words, but he touched the hand caressing his own. Her palm is smooth compared to the infant's skin, which is weathered and calloused by time. His eyesight is already dim, and his other senses have already failed him, but he can still feel the warmth of the strangers surrounding him. Another hand touched him, a softer one. It was the voice of a young child, and the infant felt the small soft hands pressing his palm. "Lolo, will you play with me?" "Oh, I will," the infant replied, his voice raspy. He was about to say more, but he coughed harshly from the effort of speaking just those few words. He used to be able to speak more, but alas, his age won't let him. So that is just a portion of the story itself, and you can read the entirety if you buy the book. So, yun siguro.
Medyo nabitin ako doon. So that was what I was saying nung
That's
nakamute
the,
ako.
that's the that's the purpose.
Yun. Yeah, that's the purpose of reading the excerpt. Ayan. Oh, by the way, hello sa mga nanonood sa atin ngayon. Nandun si Bani and si Miss Audie. Ayan. And, oh, by the way, actually, isa sa mga, one of the things that I'm curious about and I really want to ask you, natanong ko na rin to sa mga authors namin based in the north. So Benguet, and we've heard the perspectives of like um a lot of writers coming from the north and Visayas as well. Because you're coming from Sarangani. Can you enlighten us like so far sino yung mga like kilalang writers coming from Sarangani, and do you think there's like a lot to offer like in the local scene sa Sarangani? Can you give us like a bit more of perspective on that?
Okay, so as the chairperson of the Sarangani Writers League, I can say that
Mm-mm.
the local literature of our province is thriving, although it can thrive more in a sense. So, based sa aking observations dito sa Sarangani province, ang karamihan sa mga rising authors in this part of Mindanao are composed of the youth.
Mhm.
Usually sa kanila meron din experience sa campus journalism. For example, one of the authors of Aklat Alamid is Sanya Angel
Mhm.
Eve Apolinar. She is from Itong Sarangani province,
Mhm.
and she recently launched her children's storybook entitled Gusto Maglupa di Bangsi, which is about the para siyang homage sa Bangsi culture, flying fish culture ng Maitum. At the same time, one of our authors, si Hana Adto Olesenya, is one of the pioneers of spoken word poetry in Sarangani province and Soccergen. Recently, her novel, Jonas Novela sa Wikang Cebuano, was published under the Commission sa Wikang Filipino, or KWF, and it is the first Cebuano novel in based from Sarangani province. And of course, meron din kami mga spoken word artists, and si Sir MJ, who is from Maitom as well,
Mhm.
is one of the prime figures of local literature dito sa Sarangani at Soxargen. Now, in the overall state of literature in Sarangani province, I believe na kailangan pa naming i-expose pa mismo ang aming area to the national map of literature, kasi when we speak of Mindanao, there tends to be a certain image of what we know about the province or Mindanao as a whole. So we are trying to show the native roots of Sarangani province, and at the same time, contemporary culture ng aming province. And we have a very diverse cultural setting, and meron tayong mga migrants. We also have a significant percentage of Christian, Muslim, and indigenous people in the province and in Sorsogen as well. So we are trying to reach this equilibrium na we can showcase every facet of our culture and heritage as a whole.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's good to hear. At least, although sometimes no, hindi tayo masyado nabibigyan ng masyado maraming exposure because when you think about Philippine literature, usually malaking population, like they're coming from, yeah, like NCR, in the NCR region, usually I'm sure there are a lot of writers in Mindanao na mabibigyan ng spotlight, tamang spotlight in the upcoming Philippine Book Fair. I'm not sure if you're gonna be there
Yes.
though. Are you going to be at the Philippine Book Fair?
Sa Davao, I believe I will just send our literary works. And
Mm-mm.
can I also insert one more thing, Ma'am Cindy?
Oh, sige, sige.
Uh, Another challenge kasi for Mindanao authors like us
Mm-mm.
is the lack of a physical publishing house na located sa Mindanao.
Mm.
So I think that's the reason why it is quite significantly challenging to have more published authors in our province and in the region. Although meron tayo mga publishing house sa Soksojan like Aklat Alamid na nagkikater sa ating Mindanao authors, karamihan sa mga authors dito, they have to talk more from people from the other areas of the country such as Luzon or
Mm-mm.
Visayas to have their books published. So I think that's the reason why medyo challenging pa rin
Mm-mm.
sa aming part. And we are very lucky na indie publishing houses are catering to the needs of our authors nationwide, kasi they are not restricted by physical boundaries, and they can help our local writers thrive more from the indie scene perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. So, we're going to collaborate with the Indie Publishers Collab PH, who will be in the Mindanao Book Fair as well. So, I totally agree with you. I would say na hindi naman isolated case yung sa Sarangani, because I would say the same in Cebu. I mean,
Yes.
from until when we decided to move into like to Cebu area, then that's when we realized na, oh teka, like even the Cebu Lit Fest doesn't really have a lot of books. Yeah, and that's the truth. Like if you go to Ayala right now, if you visit the Cebu Lit Fest, you'll find 90%
international titles.
no, not even international titles, but maybe I would say 90% are not even like books. Maybe 80% are not related to books. So yun, that's what I want to share as well. Siguro, like we just need a proper platform. But that's really good to hear. Like we acknowledging the fact na oh may ganitong kakulangan, and I think the first step is really acknowledging, and then second would be like identifying what should we do, and then things to steps to move forward. But sorry, going back to you as a writer, as we have 5 minutes left, how did you like knowing that there's a lack of publishing houses in Mindanao or in Sarangani province, like how did you get to publish this life cycle for butterfly? I believe you've contacted, there's a publishing house at the back of the book. It's okay to mention them. How did you
Yeah.
get to this part? Yes.
Well, that's the yung kakulangan ng publishing houses sa aming region is quite a
Mm-hmm.
blessing in disguise, so to speak, because I started as a writer, a published author through zines.
Mm-hmm.
I am proud to say na napakalakas ng zine culture dito sa Sarangani province and Soxargen. It is our alternative way of publishing. And from after that, I was able to acquire a book grant from Rebel Press, which led to the publication of Takoyaki Boys. And
Mm-hmm.
after that naman, itong life cycle of a butterfly. A friend of mine who is graphic designer, she
Mm-hmm.
was able to connect me to her friend, the publisher. Then I think it's Dreamcatcher's Plume,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to negotiate a hybrid setup na ma-print itong libro namin. And mahirap din on our part kasi pre-orders lang. Kasi small publishing, indie houses lang ito. Kaya medyo
Mm-hmm.
we are relying on pre-order setup. So, but at the same time, I was very proud of Life Cycle of a Butterfly because I was able to exercise complete creative freedom in my book, which I have not experienced in my first book. Although
Mm-hmm.
gratitude pa rin tayo. So
Naman.
I think that's
Mm-mm.
yes po.
Yes. Okay. And what would be next for Carlou? Like, are you working on a new collection right now? Short stories pa rin ba?
I have a plan for two books, pero I will take a break muna sa book and
Mm-mm.
I am trying to write a manuscript for a zine na ang gusto kong target is going back to my roots as a Mindanaoan writer na
Mm-mm.
I want to be more accessible sa masa through publishing cheaper reading materials. So I have this new manuscript na ipapublish ko sa Sockzine Festival
Mm.
2023. I'm trying to use local languages and I'm trying to narrate my story as a migrant dito sa Mindanao. Kasi personally, ako mismo hindi ako taga Mindanao. I was born in Manila and I
Mm.
was raised in
Okay.
Bulacan and napunta kami dito sa Jensen at Sarangani province. So I'm trying to capture that story of being the lone person in a haystack na Tagalog ka tapos napunta ka sa mga area na puro Cebuano ang kausap mo. And yun
Yes.
siguro yung magiging tema ng aking next zine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But are you able to speak Bisaya na, Jan?
Oh yes, I was
You
able
can.
na. Kabalo na
You're
gid.
able. Okay. That's good. Okay. Yeah, I totally feel you because even if like all of my angkan are from Cebu, um, you know, you know, I grew up in Cavite as well, so yeah, totally relatable. So well, yeah, that's exciting. Sorry, when is the Zine Fest?
Usually ang Sokzin Festival is sino-hold siya every November or
Oh
late
yeah.
October because it is in accordance with the National Reading Month if I remember it correctly. Pero yun talaga ang standard date namin.
Nice. So actually, yun din yung like same period ng Indie Popcorn, and well, anyway, we'll announce that later. But yun, thank you so much, Carlu, for for introducing your book, Life Cycle for Butterfly, to us. So, this is a very, very promising book. As you can see, guys, here in the book cover itself, maybe we can have a proper look. Baby Carlu, are you able to show once more what the book looks like?
Yes.
Ayan. Yan. So, is it it's a matte cover or is it a glossy cover?
I believe it's ano siya, matte
Matte.
yata siya, ma'am.
Matte. Oo, matte. Oo. And may I see the back? Okay lang ba? Wala naman tayo.
At the
Ayan,
back
ayan, ayan.
it has a little blurb from my friends na si Sir Enrique Villasis and
Mm-mm-mm.
other people na hinahangaan ko rin sa literary scene. Thank you, Sir
Wow.
Geek. Thank you, Sir N. Villasis and Kat De Vera for providing the wonderful words for this book.
Amazing. And how about the inside? Is it white paper? White paper naman
Ito po,
siya, no? Oo.
wallpaper po siya. Wonderfully
Ayan, ayan.
printed.
Ah, wow. That's really, really nice. Ayan. So, available na po yan sa 8 Letters Bookstore and Publishing. Don't forget to get a copy, to grab a copy from Shopee, Lazada. Mas makakatipid kayo sa shipping sa Shopee and Lazada. And of course, otherwise, meron naman tayong website. Magiging available ba to in an ebook format, Carlu?
Eventually. Sunod,
Eventually. All
pohon.
right. Pohon, pohon. All right. Thank you so much, Carlu. And I really hope, I'm really looking forward na mabahagi namin yung life cycle for butterfly in the upcoming Manila International Book Fair. Ayan. And also, sa mga darating mo pang mga manuscripts and, well, books. And thank you so much, Carlu. And by the way, meron pa kami susunod na horror, which will be in another link. I-refresh nyo lang itong Facebook page ng 8 Letters. Okay? So, in the meantime, Carlo, thank you so much and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.